fast, crossing county lines just to make my name in the city. Took everything, put it on the line, cause I never break or back down. One shot is do or die.
Welcome to the bottom of the bottom, me and Sin Asylum. If I saw him and I had to get him, yeah, I probably got him. Corner boost to mix up the solution. I am such a problem, crazy goon and gone up that pollution with a group of goblins, super choppers, and they hoot and holler when we scooping dollars, lose a partners. But if you started, we gon' finish it. Welcome to the wild side, you know what the business is.
I'm a boss, I'm a king, I'm right on the top. I'm a boss, I'm a king, I cannot be stopped. I'm a boss, I'm a king, I'm right on the top. I'm a boss, I'm a king, I cannot be stopped. I'm a boss, I'm a king, I'm right on the top. I'm a boss, I'm a king, I cannot be stopped. I'm a boss, I'm a king, I'm right on the top. I'm a boss, I'm a king, I'm a boss, I'm a I am a king on the throne and I'm running the kingdom with all my ability, using my strength and agility. Money.
You make me feel so good. The music is so cool.
Put your hands up, everybody knows that. Don't hold back, got you on go jack. Go DJ, that's my DJ. Party on replay, party on replay.
Welcome to the bottom of the bottom, me and Sin Asylum. If I saw him and I had to get him, yeah, I probably got him. Corner boost to mix up the solution. I am such a problem, crazy goon and gone up that pollution with a group of goblins, super choppers, and they hoot and holler when we scooping dollars, lose the partners. But if you started, we gon' finish it. Welcome to the wild side, you know what the business is.
Been running fast, crossing county lines just to make my name in the city. Took everything, put it on the line, cause I never break or back down. One shot is do or die.
You make me feel so good. The music is so cool.
I'm a boss, I'm a king, I'm right on the top. I'm a boss, I'm a king, I cannot be stopped. I'm a boss, I'm a king, I'm right on the top. I'm a boss, I'm a king, I cannot be stopped. I'm a boss, I'm a king, I'm right on the top. I'm a boss, I'm a king, I cannot be stopped. I'm a boss, I'm a king, I'm right on the top. I'm a boss, I'm a king, I'm a boss, I'm a I am a king on the throne and I'm running the kingdom with all my ability, using my strength and agility. Money.
Put your hands up, everybody knows that. Don't hold back, got you on go jack. Go DJ, that's my DJ.
I just realized I did not have my sound on. So you guys, what I want to do is do an introduction of who we are in the show, as well as have Mr. Hill come on as well. But okay, perfect. Can you do a test? Can I hear you? Can you say something? Let's see if I can hear you. Because I think I accidentally.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now. All right. So I'm going to do just a quick background of who my company is and all that good stuff. And that'll take about 10 minutes. And then we'll start with the conversation about you. Is that fair?
Can't wait.
Okay, perfect. And you guys, if you've been with us for this long, I know it's the summer and everybody is out in the streets. That's why we're taking a break during the summer. But the long and short of it is that during 2020, when we started this series, and Mr. Hill, I'm going to mute you for a second, okay? And then when it's time, okay, perfect. When we started this series, what was really important for us was to show the connections between systemic racism and Black wealth. And this is our third year of doing it. We're going to go through some changes before we reboot in the future. But moving forward, we still want to make sure that we're making everything transparent. And today is June 29, 2023. And all over the news, they're talking about how the Supreme Court just outlawed universities allowing people to come into the university based on race, which is basically affirmative action for colleges. Now, why that's a problem is because Black communities are always being sucked of their resources, their financial resources, which ultimately allow us to compete with different groups so that we can earn those spots. But it's hard to earn those spots when your school is not getting funded, when your summer is spent, in the house because you can't go to summer camp or you can't do the things that your peers or your counterparts are doing. So let's talk about today. That's just something I wanted to discuss really quickly because everything is always happening in real time. So my name's Saria Rigo. My team consists of Fabiana, Gilbert Aguilar, and the original people who created the series was Kathy Flores and Jamie Halley. And we created the series because we did want to show that intersectionality. And we also wanted to show our company as a safe space for people of color who were not even thinking about the financial sector, but we wanted to make sure that it exists. So right now, the best way to predict your future is to create it. I'm going to go over really quickly who we are, how we work, as well as some financial education. There's nothing for you guys to do. And if you have any questions, you can put it in the chat. But as we move forward, when we reboot and do the system again, we'd love to have introductions to your family and friends and people that you think would benefit from this conversation. So universities are interesting. Even as a finance major in college, I was taught finance. I was taught all these great things. I wasn't taught personal finance and I wasn't taught the importance of people skill. What I love about our company is we understand the importance of people skill, open-mindedness, coachability, and having an entrepreneurial mindset. Right now, present day, so many people are pulling their kids out of college because they feel like college isn't giving them the tools to learn, because a lot of the soft skills that people are getting fired for aren't necessarily being taught. But meanwhile, we have this hot topic of generational wealth going on social media all the time, and especially in the Black community. And when I think of generational wealth as a financial professional, I think of two things. I think of opportunity and education. And what I mean by that is if we're going to create generational wealth for our families, we can't give them our job. We can't give them our talent. We can't give them anything we don't own and we have to give. So what that means is we do have to start looking at what we can create and build equity in this lifetime so that we can ultimately pass it on to our families. But it's not enough to just pass things on, is it? Because if we pass things on and we don't educate folks about how to use it or what to do with it, it'll either be taken away or it'll go away. So here at this company, we understand the dramatic need for financial education and for opportunity. If you look at these numbers, it's dire. 38% of people have credit card debt. People are living paycheck to paycheck. They don't have $1,000 for emergency. This is everybody, you guys. When we break it down to the Black community, because of the impact that systemic racism has had on us, those numbers are even worse, which means it's very important that we counteract it with activities. And these are what we believe. We believe that families are living with stress, and that stress comes from finance, right? And it's not an unheard of thing for people to have financial stress. As a matter of fact, in the financial world, we constantly link the performance of portfolios to lifespan, right? So we cover what happens if your portfolio drops when you're retired and the impact that it has on shortening your life. But we don't cover living paycheck to paycheck. We don't cover the impact of just getting by. We don't cover a lot of the things that we know impacts our families in the Black community. So even though we don't cover it as an industry, here at this office and at this company in the Black Wealth series, we talk about it all the time. And what we're doing is we're creating a different type of company. We're creating a company that really focuses on the middle income. The middle income is the tide that lifts all boats in the Black community. The middle income that was the group that was bombed in Tulsa. Those are the communities that were targeted for all of the violence and the racial violence that was happening during Reconstruction. The middle income, those are also the majority of people that were lynched, right? So there's a knowing, we know that when people have financial means, it does give them power. So what we're trying to do in our office and in this group is help the middle income so that they can ultimately help their communities and their families. And just for the sake of time, the ultimate goal is financial independence, and that's where you're working because you want to work. How do we do that? We do that through education. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of it now. The first thing is the rule of 72. So the rule of 72 is all about how to make your money grow to double. To be exact, it's the rule for compound interest. So how it works is if you take 72 divided by the interest rate of whatever your investment is getting, it's going to give you a number. The number represents how many years on average it takes for your money to double, right? So here we have 6%. 6% is going to double every 12 years. So if we start with 10,000 today, in 48 years, we have about 163,000. We could do better, right? But there's so many times, especially my friends and my family, there's so many times where people would much rather put their money in the bank because they're afraid to lose it and they don't prioritize the growth of their money. But meanwhile, those same families have credit cards charging 25%, car loans 12%, student loans 6%, mortgages 3 to 7%. And if they're like, I'm debt free, inflation is still 4 to 6%. So we're at a point now where our money, not making money, is not optional unless you want to work until you pass away, because that's the only other alternative, right? And then this slide here shows the power of time. Time is money. So often in the Black community, because of the impact of systemic racism, we have the Black tax, we have student loans, we have less pay because of the way we're impacted by taxes. And what that ends up doing is making us think that we need to prioritize saving to later. Not necessarily. There's an impact to procrastinating when it comes to money, even if your reason is the best. So you guys, I want you to think of it like this. If you're helping family members, who's going to help you? You got to make sure you're prioritizing yourself. And we also talk about the impact of taxes. We have choices when it comes to taxes. And we know that because we see the wealthy, they pay very little. So what I love about our company is not only are we having conversations about taxes and how to minimize them, but we also expose our clients to investments that allow them to not pay taxes in the future. All right. And so we look at everything, and I'm going to speed through. These are some of the companies that we work with. And we also have a business opportunity that we're looking for more people who want to get in the financial sector. So you guys, I know I just kind of blew through everything. And the reason why is because we've been doing this college series for a while. We started with Dr. Baldwin telling us how the universities think and function and how they don't pay taxes. Then we had Coach Mosley sharing about how the universities pay the coaches and what's happening when these kids get this NIL money. Then we had the NIL agent, Mr. McGriff, talking about the importance of representation and how that field is so unregulated, how there are agents out there charging 50%. Then we had beautiful Keisha talking about how she raised her sons and kept them out of trouble so that they could get drafted by the NFL. And now for the bonus series, we have Mr. Jamal Hill. And Jamal, I'm saying your name right, right? Good. All right. And I'm Surreal like Maria. So Jamal, can you tell us a little bit about your background before we talk about your sports?
Yeah, absolutely. My background, I'm from Los Angeles, California, born and raised, dual parent household. And, probably like a lot of people on this call, it sounds like you're speaking to, just in terms of classic African-American financial tropes, I've experienced all of them, from fear of insurance to fear of credit cards to fear of water, which is actually kind of funny because a lot of the things that we talk about with money have a water sound to them, right? Like flow. And currency, right? Currency, a lot behind that. So that's just me in a snapshot, without getting into athletics.
Not yet. So your mom and dad, what did they do for work?
My mom was a career sheriff, and my dad a career truck driver for DWP. So very solid,
Middle
pension,
income.
retirement. Middle, I guess in today's world, it would be like lower middle income, but yeah, sure. Like very like middle income family, lived in the same house our whole life.
Oh, I love that.
100%. Yep.
That's so awesome. Now let's talk about the sports world before you give us tips on the NIL space.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you get into sports and swimming and all of that? Just everything you want to share, and I'll just
for sure.
you as you talk.
So just so that it's known, at this point in time, I'm an active Team USA Paralympic swimmer. I represented our country in Tokyo a couple years ago, won a bronze medal. I'll be going to World Championship swimming in about a month in the United Kingdom. And then Paris, the next big games will happen next year. So again, very active Paralympic swimmer. Swimming was the first sport I ever got into. 10 months old, I was in Mommy and Me swim classes. And yeah, it really just kind of like, I just did it ever since then a little bit. Around 10 years old, I took a hiatus from swimming. I was diagnosed with a type of hereditary neuropathy that ultimately qualifies me to be a Paralympic swimmer, so an elite level athlete with a disability. And I've been pro now since I've been amateur, right, independent since 2016, and I've been pro since about 2019. But swimming for the better part of 20 years.
Okay, got it. And your disability, I'm not familiar with that. Tell us a little bit about that.
Absolutely. So it's called Charcot-Marie-Tooth. It's named after 3 French scientists who discovered it. The acronym for it is CMT. And ultimately what it is, I'm going to use a few like big words here, but I'll break them down, right? So it is a hereditary neuropathy. What that means is that it's inherited, right? Like I've inherited, you talked about inheritance. So it's inherited through my genes, something that I was born with. Neuropathy meaning that it affects my nerves. Specifically, this disease affects my peripheral nerves. And peripheral just means that the limbs that are farthest from my brain. So, anyone who's ever had any science class knows that a very basic element. The brain sends electric signals to the rest of the body, and that's how you snap your finger or, you wiggle your toe or something like that. So for me, my brain does not communicate with my limbs beneath my knees. So I have 0% nerve conductivity. So like the knee reflex test has no effect on me. I'm not able to really wiggle my toes. I'm not able to build muscle in my lower limbs. And it feels a lot like walking on stilts. That's kind of my day-to-day experience. And then from my elbows to my fingertips, I have about 30% nerve capacity. So what that means is I usually try not to handle glassware, and I don't text, in bed at night with my phone over my face.
Oh,
yeah,
that makes sense. Okay.
One slip. So that's what that looks like for me. For a lot of people living with neuropathy, more common neuropathies are cerebral palsy. A lot of people are familiar with cerebral palsy and things of that nature. But yeah, it manifests in everyone's life differently. The biggest thing about it is, if you don't use it, you lose it. especially when you're dealing with progressive diseases like mine.
Okay, got it. And so it will get worse no matter what you do?
Oh, I mean, I'm a firm believer in the doctors don't know nearly as much as they think they know. So,
Okay. Uh-huh.
so science has its stance, but I mean, according to science, I shouldn't be able to walk today or do a lot of the things that I do as my body, reads according to their tests and scales right now. So yeah, my faith is in God and my faith is in myself. I'm very active and I'm also very hard-headed. So, should the day come where I can't walk, you'll probably see me on the floor because I was trying to walk anyway.
Uh-huh. Okay. Now, how long have you been diagnosed with that?
I've been diagnosed with it for, oh boy, this is my 18th year. So I've been
So
living
you
with this
got it as
disease since
a
I was
kid.
10 years old. Yep.
Okay. And what was your telltale sign? How did you realize you had
Yeah.
it?
So we realized that I had it because I was at Thanksgiving dinner. And I had stopped swimming at that time because of a shoulder injury, which the doctors kind of correlated to these two later. Long story short, I was at Thanksgiving dinner and my arm was asleep from riding in the car. And as the night went on, that sleepiness, we've all sat on the toilet or something too long and had it fall asleep. That sleepiness, that numbness continued to spread throughout my body. And we finally sat down at dinner and I couldn't pick up my knife and fork. And so, I turned to my dad. I'm like, hey, something is wrong here. It's a big guy, so he scoops me up. We go to the hospital. And so in my most inflamed state, I will definitely I move into like this paralyzed position. So I was in a full body paralysis for about 3 days. And then once I came out of this less inflamed state and was inducted into Children's Hospital, and they have more conclusive tests and things like that. They're like, hey, people in my mom's side of the family have it. It's kind of passed down through the Y chromosome. I'm not a geneticist, but I think XY is women. If
Mhm.
not, you guys can figure it out. Either way, yeah, I was just kind of left with this new body. Obviously being a kid, you're always figuring your body out anyway. But I'm from 10 years old. I can run, I can jump, I can do all these things to the best thing I can do is turn my head from left to right, smile, and try and crack a joke. To now, I have my body back, but it's completely different. I have to relearn how to walk. I have to relearn how to hold a pencil, how to write my name, how to open doorknobs, and not being a part of the spectrum of visible disability. Right? Anyone who's ever met me or sees me, it would not be an assumption. Right? I don't have a limb amputation. I don't have a visual impairment or a hearing aid. There came that new challenge of, you know, living, right, and facing the reality of like, well, life's hard enough, and especially I think from like an older Black parent perspective, it's hard enough being Black, so like,
Mhm.
yeah, I definitely don't want to have a disability, and so the challenge really became trying to blend in. And
No.
and and even being called out on this and that, and never wanting to be a person who made excuses, right? Even though I had something very real going on, it's not something that you could just identify, right? So there was the fear of being seen as less than. There was the fear of being put into a box. There was the fear of not being believed. There was the fear of seeing myself as less than. There was the fear that, well, what if my disease and what they say about my disease is right? And now the only hope for quality of life I can hope for is limited to this 100-page report written by some doctorate. So that was a real journey from 10 years old. And ultimately, I stayed in that proverbial disability closet, never speaking about it to anyone, friends, coaches, teachers, you name it, until I was 22 years old. And I met my current swim coach, and we had an exchange that ultimately brought that about. And that's what really set me on the path to joining the Paralympic movement.
And what made you even start with a swim coach? How did that conversation happen, or what was
Oh yeah, that was a journey. So from 10 years old to 16, I did a lot of things. But 16 years old, I picked swimming back up again. I swam through high school. I went to D3 school. I swam through college. And then as a junior, I decided I was a physics major, by the way. Physics major, just come from like a family of scientists, so that was just kind of what that was. But I decided as a junior, I want to be a pro swimmer. I had worked the hardest I had ever worked. And I think anyone who's probably been through something can attest to this. If you have a heartbreak, and it does two things, like it either inspires you to go harder, in which case you know you're on the right path, or like it completely turns you off, in which case I guess you weren't on the right path. Do that other thing.
Right.
So I had a very poor showing my junior year at championships, very embarrassed, and that heartbreak kind of put me in this place of like, wow, I really care about swimming. I want to go and make this a professional career again. And that's at this time I'm living in a lot of cognitive dissonance. Not only do I not acknowledge, but I completely reject any aspect of my identity that would be considered as disabled. It's not something I converse about. There's no acknowledgement of it at all for anyone, not even my parents at this point in my life. It's not a conversation that we have. I think to no great fault or shame of their own. I say all this to say ultimately I decided to leave college as a junior with this crazy pipe dream of like, well, I'm gonna just go be a pro swimmer. And it was definitely crazy, but it was just, again, as the financial expert, right? I'm sure you all speak a lot about risk management, right? And so at that time I assessed my risk. Me becoming a pro swimmer has a time limit, right? There was no me being a pro swimmer at 50. Like at 40, at 30, the odds and opportunities start to dwindle. So I was already in, the most prime space that I could be. And quite frankly, I just knew that knowing myself, the regret factor would have killed me.
Yeah.
So I can live with trying it, doing my best, going down the journey. It doesn't work out. Great. We adapt. We do something else. But that's ultimately what led me to leave college as a junior. I came back home to Southern California, started to hustle, started to, study finances, study social media, study marketing. I got to feed myself. I got to figure things out. I still have parents in the city, thankfully, right? So I wasn't just solo. But just the kind of, the grind that young professionals have, once they really kind of take their destiny into their own hands and really commit to blazing their own path and seeing the dream that they've set come into fruition, right? Which just hearing your shows and things like that, it sounds like a trend that your audience is very keen on. So ultimately I went down this path and I started to meet Olympians, and I'm training and I finally have a breakthrough. I go to a swim meet and I meet this guy, and we had trained at the same place, and he introduces me to his coach. And that lady happens to be my coach. And so, at this point, I got no time to waste, right? I've already wasted too much time. If it's not working, I'm on to the next. So it was time to transition to a new coach. And after a year of training together, she was the first person in 12 years that just pulled me aside and said, hey, there's something you're not telling me. I see the way that you pick your legs up when you get out of the car. I see the way when you dive off the diving block, it ain't a dive. Like, you're going in the water, but it ain't a dive. I see the way, like, we're training, everyone else is improving. You're not, for some reason. You're not a very good runner. You can't just, like, what's going on? You actually remind me of some of my patients from the past with cerebral palsy. And that was the first time, like I said, in a dozen years that anyone maybe hadn't noticed that I was struggling to do what would be these maybe very trivial things, but didn't put me in a position to where I felt like I had to identify it for you, which again made me feel guilty, like I had an excuse. And so that's ultimately what led me to disclose that information. And that didn't just end it right there, because I had this dream of being an Olympian, and there's nothing wrong with Jamal Hill, baby. I'm not disabled. Don't talk to me like that. So we shut that conversation down real quick. I was excited to be seen, but like not excited to, share this with the world and like let the whole world know like that, something's wrong with me, or like I'm not the man or anything like that. And a very wise woman, a big reason why we still work together today, she let it go. And we just continued training as if nothing else had happened, as if nothing had changed. And ultimately, And within another 6 months, someone visited our training camp, and that person called me out. They're like, "Dude, did you know your legs don't work?" And it was kind of at that time, that it had been a dozen years, just like living in shadows, competing, doing everything, no excuses. And then within 6 months, two people, completely unwarranted, unsolicited, have now called me out on this. And I'm a big person of faith. I was like, well, if I choose to ignore this, the chances of my dream even having one more day are slim, right? But me not lying, me not cheating, me not doing anything, by me just taking a step back, swallowing my ego and pride, and sharing my story and the very real challenges that I face every day, maybe my dream can live on one more day. And ultimately that's what led me into the Paralympic movement in 2018 and so on and so forth to again competing on the largest platform in the world for all athletes, which is the Olympic Paralympic stage, and being able to win an individual medal.
Now, was she the one who suggested the Paralympic?
Yes.
Okay, good. And how'd you feel about it?
Oh, I was completely turned off of it. I'm a very respectful, I'm a very respectful person, especially with all people, but especially like with elders, coaches, even as an adult. But no, I shut that down very quickly. I was like, we will not be discussing this. That's not an option. Thank you for seeing me. I feel seen. I'm glad that something's going on, but like, nah, we're not. Nah. And I just wasn't ready for it. Again, like, we were in one moment, it would have been expecting me to have the maturity in just one moment to overcome 12 years of a pseudo identity.
All right, you guys. Jamal went off for 2 seconds. Let's see what happens. Okay, you there? Okay, good.
I'm here with you.
So you were saying, yeah, good. You were saying that you've been hiding it for 12 years and you just didn't have the maturity to hear it at that moment. Okay.
Yes.
Got it. And what made you wake up?
Like I said, probably about 4 to 5 months later, a buddy came and visited us from the UK, training with us. And across a short distance, I'm still a world-class swimmer, regardless of ability. And ultimately we were racing, we were diving off the blocks, and we were watching the film afterward. And he's like, "Oi, mate," that's a terrible British accent. "Oi, mate, like, did you know your legs don't work? Like, look at this dive. I'm already 2 meters ahead of you." And I'm like, "Yeah, I knew that." He's like, "Oh, dude, if your legs don't work, you got to join the Paralympics. I got a blind friend. I got this friend. I got that friend. Like, you do great." And I'm just like, who is this guy? Like, still very triggering for me. But again, just like taking a second to realize, hey, 12 years of shame. And in 6 months, two people unsolicited, have seen this. If I continue to choose to ignore this, my dream is going to die.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. Good. All right. So now you're in that space, and I look at your social medias. You have a lot. It looks like you're putting a lot of work into your social media. Are you doing that, or do you have a team that helps you?
Well, I mean, yeah. Now I've got a team, but a lot of this came during like my college dropout years. So like from 2016. I tell this to people all the time, like I have great parents and they gave me a great foundation. But when I give my speeches, I thank people in 3 orders: God, Jamal, and then my parents. Because you can't build an empire with only a foundation, right? Somebody's got to show up every day and commit to no one can improve you more than you want to improve yourself. So
absolutely.
Up until throughout college, I could always read. I know that seems comical to say, but like, I was by no means a reader. Once I left out of college, I started growing and planning to, now I read over 52 books a year, right? Across, I've taken way more classes after my college years than I ever did when I was, when somebody was paying, a lot of money for me to be there.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, all of that is the result of years of study, years of, failed business ventures, micro entrepreneurship, mentors, and just like really investing a lot in the social media space, fairly early on in 2016.
Okay. Wow. So you did all the investing yourself in 2016.
Yeah,
You were the one on social media
well, I was
doing
actually
all.
originally, but I didn't have a brand. So, I was building others' brands. I
Oh,
was doing work for chefs. I was doing work for bed companies. There was like this
you had a career.
$10,000. Yeah. I had like a small social media agency. So
Wow.
like we were doing, like now where I am now, like it's small actually sounds very accurate, but like at that time I thought I was a big deal for sure. um, but like we were just I was able to experience just I was able to experience storytelling, right? The value of
Mhm.
storytelling, to be able to work in cinema, to be able to get behind the camera, to write, to direct, to script, to run advertisements, to understand products, to understand how to communicate those products across a variety of industries, from, like I said, naturopathic $10,000 beds to new supplements to at-home fitness equipment, to a personality, and ultimately once I made the Paralympic team in late 2018, 2019, I didn't have time to be a hustler like that anymore. So I decided, well, if I got to stop this, I need to take everything that I've learned and apply it to myself and my own brand and my own business. And so that was kind of, after 3 years of like really grinding out, studying, being mentored, losing a lot of other people's money, which, is like unfortunate, but that's real. That's just like, that's real. Having some wins, having some successes, but yeah, I'm on the podium now. Like I had over 25 years of losing in swimming before I've reached this point to where it's like, yeah, now you're going to be hard pressed to beat me. And I think that goes and stands true for anyone in the indie industry. If nobody ever had losses, like I don't want them on my team. I don't care if they've always been a winner. It's like the losses are what built the integrity. The losses are what built the experience. Like if you just been winning since day one, I'm not sure how much you actually know, quite frankly. So yeah,
Uh-huh.
so that again, that's me. But that is that's what that was. It was a long, and I still do it to this day. I pray that it never ends, as long as I have a mind that works and a spirit that's guided by God. I don't imagine it will. But yeah, that's just constantly investing in education, investing in experiences, taking chances on businesses, losing money, making money, understanding that it's a flow, understanding that people are people despite their titles,
Yeah.
valuing people, understanding not everything is. I'm sure you run into young people in business all the time that like think everything is a transaction, right? Like, nah, like, I seen this on TV. I know how this works. Like, you know. So, but again, you got to learn and grow through that. So, that's really what. And again, like I'm speaking about it as if it's a long time ago. We're talking about well, I guess it's been a little bit of a minute now. It's like 8 years ago. But that's what
Mhm.
the time flies, right? That's what the
Yeah.
past 8 years. That's what the past 8 years have consisted of. Just the school of hard knocks, reinvesting in self education, and just the even to this day, the most money that I spend on anything is in education, from books
Good.
to courses to
Yeah.
travel experiences.
Mhm.
It's easily 60% of my spending.
Yes.
Anyone I know can attest to this. 60% is light goes to education.
Good. Now the branding,
Mm-hmm.
all the things that you said that goes along in branding, it
Mm-hmm.
sounds like a lot. It doesn't sound like something that people can just wake up and be like, boom, I'm a brander. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like,
no.
and why I'm saying it is because this new NIL space is really one of the things that stuck out to me, Jamal, is that when the conversation happened for athletes, when they were trying to unionize to get paid from the actual profits of the sports, you know, somehow Governor Newsom or whoever did it said, you know what, we don't want you to get compensated from the sports. We want you to get compensated from your name, image, and likeness, which you should have been able to get compensated for anyway. And now you gotta basically create a whole nother career of what your career was. It just doesn't sound like a fair shot. It doesn't sound like the good deal to me. Just to me though. Oh, I can't hear you. I can't hear you.
Sorry, I put myself on mute there. There was a lot. There was a little bit of background noise. You can hear me now clearly though. Yes,
okay. Yes, sir. But the phone just went out for 2 seconds. It just went out for 2 seconds, you guys. And we'll tell you why he's in the car during the conversation. But Jamal, can you hear me? Okay, he's frozen for just a moment. But while he's frozen, so the reason why he's in the car doing the Black Wealth bonus series about branding yourself and all that good stuff is because he actually helps kids in the city learn how to swim. So that's a big passion of his, is making sure that he's addressing the fear of water. And I'm one of those people. I don't have a fear of water, but I definitely do not feel comfortable jumping into big bodies of water because I can't swim. So he's been taking up the slack and trying to teach people how to swim, teach different communities how to swim, and make sure that hopefully we can have some more swimming medalists, whether it's any Olympic, and we can just create more space for people to be safe in water.
Okay, I think we made it. I think we're back.
All right,
Okay,
good.
cool.
I was
Thank
just
you for the
telling-
technical difficulty understanding. I'm not a techie, despite all my studying. So I appreciate you.
No problem. I was sharing why you're in the car and how you were helping kids in the city learn how to swim. And we'll talk about
100%.
that. But you were sharing
Mhm.
the little bait and switch with the NIL stuff. Tell me what you think about that.
You brought that up, and I'll be transparent. You and I, we do have different perspectives on this.
Okay, go ahead.
Number one, I think you're absolutely right. Like, athletes should have always been able to use their name, image, and likeness to profit, right? Obviously, you know, for high school athletes, doing that in the past would have prevented them from being able to compete on the collegiate level, and for college athletes, that would have made them ineligible to compete on the collegiate level, which is, as we all know, the greatest platform to move to the professional level. However, I think about it like this. I think it's a little bit of a gold rush effect. Is how I look at it, right? It's open territory. It's like the Louisiana Purchase just opened up. It's the Wild West. Listen, if you good enough to go out there and make it, you go ahead out there and make it. But even, you know, as we look at a historical context again, in my perspective, I ask myself, well, like, why was that even attractive to people to begin with? Well, the reality is, prior to that, it was extremely gatekept. If these people already had land and opportunities, why would they leave and go and get it? Right? They moved out.
Tell me what you mean when you say why was it attractive. What is the it you're referring to?
So the it I'm referring to, and I'm like a guy speaking metaphor. So bear with me here. I'm comparing this a little bit to, right, the Louisiana Purchase of the United States, where the 13 colonies, now we own the whole country. It's all open. You go out there, you put a post in the ground, that's your land now, right? Like, it's yours, right? And so what I'm saying is, people who rushed across this nation just as fast as they could from the East Coast to the West Coast, why was it attractive for them to do that, right? And what I'm saying is it was attractive for them to do that. Well, because they're getting something that in reality they never would have had even a chance at getting before. Even though it's still highly competitive, even though they could put their flag in the ground and somebody could come up and shoot them and take their flag out of the ground, prior to this, you either had it or you didn't. And that was it. And that's all you could expect, right? So when we talk about NIL, you know, yeah, from the very limited perspective of the 2,000 athletes in America every year that are signed to the NFL or the NBA combined, returning veterans and rookies, sure, maybe it's like not that attractive. But for the masses of people who are, for, you know, I ain't a mathematician, but like all the youth sports, all the high school sports, all the college sports, all the neighborhood sports, all the athletes in the world, just in the country that, and we're only talking, well, these are our main two sports, right? Football and basketball in this country, that will probably never make it into that class of 2000 annually.
Yeah. They
now have a chance to still get out there and make their sport a profession by gaining more skills. And that's how I see it. And even for the athletes that are high tier, and I'm very critical of them, it's like, dude, we've seen it time again. Why do these athletes end up getting taken so advantage of? Because they're lazy, quite frankly. They think all they have to do is be able to jump really high or swim really fast or put the ball in this way. And guess what? Then someone with more knowledge about life, more knowledge about experience, more knowledge about marketing, come, and they lose the money in a lot of ways. Number one, they got to hire all these people to do jobs that they could never do themselves. Surya, you seem, Surya, I know you're extremely educated. I know you have a team around you. And I'm willing to bet that no one on your team is doing a job that if they left today, you couldn't fill in momentarily until you get somebody else to get back in there. That's the reality of being a leader. Or if you don't know it, I'm hiring somebody and I'm showing up and I'm about to learn from them while I'm paying them to do what they're doing. That's not the reality of these people, right? So they're being hit up front with that, right? They're paying for their ignorance, and then they pay. You talked about the rule of 72. The longer that goes on, they're paying compound interest on it, because every single year that passes, it's going 6, 8, 10, 15% compounded ignorance until now we have 80%, 70%, 90% of these professional players that have achieved the dream filing for bankruptcy. And it's because they didn't develop not soft skills. They didn't develop these hard skills. They didn't develop communication. They don't understand how their business works. They don't understand their marketing. They don't understand the power of their own name, image, and likeness, and how that truly is a brand and can be leveraged on and off the court. You know, so from a small fish perspective, quite frankly, you know, again, the most adaptable, you know, those best able to adapt and to learn and to evolve, they're going to have the most success. That's just how life works. But it's a whole game that was never open to people, you know, like that dude who could ball in high school but never made it to college. His dream ain't over yet. You know, the person who could ball in college but ain't getting drafted to the league, it ain't over yet. And then for the people who do reach the highest levels in the very classical sense, they now have to take responsibility. The marketplace is forcing them into a place to where if you do not take responsibility, you know and realize how ignorant you are. And it's embarrassing, as it should be.
Yeah. I want to talk about that. I do have a different perspective than you about the laziness, but I want to make sure that you give us some tips on how to not be lazy and get our branding up, and use some of the tips that you use or use with your clients and continue to use. And then you can also share your big win if you want.
Okay, fair enough. Sure, I'll share it. But yeah, I guess you're right. Lazy is a bit critical, but like sometimes
no. I get what you're saying, but I'm gonna. So one of the great things that I get to do is I get to hear about everything. I get to hear about politics, sports, universities, NCAA. I get to hear about it all from experts. So I'll be able to tie it together and show you how systemic racism is flowing through it, and you might not have been present to it.
Oh, well, there you go. I'm excited to give me a lesson today, y'all. This is my favorite thing.
But we want a lesson too, so go ahead.
Well, yeah, the tips that I have is like, and I say this about swimming and swimming education, it's not rocket science. Like I told you, I studied physics in college. The only thing even close to rocket science is literally rocket science. And like you said to begin with, right? Sure, NIL has opened up, and that doesn't just automatically make someone a professional brander, right? Like, I've been studying this for 8 years. I'm pretty good. I know I can make a way for myself, and I can open opportunities up for others. But I would not put myself if I was in the class of the world's best branders, then everyone would already know my name and brand, right? Like, it's seen through the result. So we all have a lot to learn, but it's like, I am one of the world's best swimmers. When I first started swimming, I was 10 months old. After 10 years, even at 10 years old, I was not one of the world's best swimmers. Even after 20 years, at 20 years old, I was not one of the world's best swimmers. At 25, I could definitively say I am the third best swimmer in the whole world, right? You know, and so it's like anything, you just come at it day after day after day. If you have an interest and you have a passion, all you need to do is to start with curiosity and become more educated. Find some people that you want to model yourself after instead. Listen, I spend most nights with people like Ray Kroc and with the founder of IKEA, that private family. And, you know, like, that's the beauty of knowledge, especially in this world, in this age of, you know, applied information. You can have anyone at your fingertips. You can have a conversation with anyone throughout history. The most successful people, the people who had the biggest failures, right? You have access to all of that. So it's like, yeah, it's not about hitting a home run, right? Sports analogy guy. It's just like, dude, number one, start swinging the bat, right? And then eventually you'll get a base hit. Who cares if they catch it and you're out? You're going to fail. Anyone who's ever succeeded at anything knows that it took time, knows that it took effort, knows that it took energy, which is another reason why if you just never lost, you always won. Listen, we could be cool, but you can't be on my team. Because, see, you don't know what it's like when life happens. Everybody loses and everybody wins. And it's how you react and interact with those experiences and learn and apply that continue to define you. You know what I'm saying? When I race, I can't control if someone else happens to swim faster than me that day. That's out of my control. But if I don't know that because I've only ever came in first, well, then I'm going to be in some trouble the day that reality strikes. So, again, I hope that's just not too broad, but I really do believe, like, simplicity is the best thing that's ever been invented.
So what's a simple way to build a brand for yourself? What would you recommend? Is there a book you would recommend? Is there a strategy? What did you do for your clients?
The number one thing I would do is just like go to YouTube.
But you're YouTube today.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like, and well, here we go. Let me take a step back. You're right, because these are tools. The number one thing is to decide with clarity. Okay, like, you got to decide what you want to do. Okay, I want to build this big brand. Okay, great. What channels do you want to build with you? Well, there's email. Well, there's Instagram. There's Facebook. There's LinkedIn. That's a lot. Okay, let's pick one of these avenues. Okay, I want to build my brand right now I want to build it through TikTok because I heard TikTok is on fire. You can get Insta famous on TikTok. I want to go TikTok. Okay, great. Start a TikTok account. And now that you're on TikTok, you should Google what are the most popular TikTok accounts. Go straight to the top. Look at them. Look at what type of content they create. Look at their hashtags. Now you go to YouTube. Hey, what are great practices for TikTok in 2023? Expedite your learning process. Shorten the learning curve. So yeah, if we have to boil it down to one thing, a great book would be The One Thing. You need to get clear on the one thing. And when you have a big idea, it can feel like you get to the one thing several times before you actually get to the one thing, right? I got a market, I got a brand, great. What platform? Great. All these platforms, great. Which one are we going to focus on? Great. This is the one we're going to focus on, great. What one strategy are we going to implement and see through to success before we start getting fancy with another strategy and another strategy? Now we've mastered this platform, great. Now you can expand. Now you can maybe do email marketing. Now maybe you can go LinkedIn. That would be it. Boil down the one thing.
So the other question is there a recommended platform that people should start using to develop themselves for that NIL position?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I really don't think you could go wrong with, quite frankly. I think you should, number one, I think the number one should be the one that like resonates the most with you. Like, I think that's really, really key, is choose the one that resonates the most with you. There's new platforms popping up every day. And that's the beautiful thing about not only the NIL, but about social media. There are social media channels, Saria, that we know the main ones, but there are people on social media platforms that you and I have never heard of that are making tens and hundreds of thousands of dollars, $1 million off of their followers on these boutique platforms.
Oh.
So it's like, number one, you got to find the right platform. Find something that like excites you, because you're going to want to show up to work every day because it's work.
It is.
And then if I had to like place a strong recommendation just of like the big ones, I think one of the greatest blue oceans right now is LinkedIn. I think one of the greatest blue oceans is LinkedIn. We all know Instagram is saturated. TikTok is saturated. Facebook has been saturated. You can still make your presence felt in these spaces. So don't give up on them. But LinkedIn is a blue ocean. You can connect with decision makers. You can get to the top of the top. You can share a lot of the exact same exciting content that you would share all these other places on LinkedIn, and it's getting seen by decision makers. You get to make that meeting yourself. You don't have to wait until you get 1 million followers or 100,000 or 10,000, right? On LinkedIn, you get to connect. If you have 1,000 people following on LinkedIn, dude, that's enough. Like, that's all it is. Go LinkedIn, get you a LinkedIn premium account so you can see all your analytics. You can run ads on LinkedIn. The ads on LinkedIn, I think, are probably the best ROI across all the major social medias to this day. Again, just because it's highly untapped. And also, LinkedIn is being forced into a space that it has to adapt more to the storytelling needs, right? These other platforms, they allow for very visceral storytelling to be shared. In the past, LinkedIn was like Facebook in the past, right? It's, older, upside. People have the perception of like, student tie, like no videos. We don't want to see your life. Like, it's an email pretty much, but like it's being forced to adapt. So in some ways, you can be an earlier adapter on this platform with your ability to tell stories and to curate it in a way that, like, again, trust me, everyone that I know on LinkedIn, my accountant has TikTok, and that dude spends he spends time on TikTok. We all love entertainment. We all love seeing the same things. We all want to consume it. So it's like, why not give it to them in a place that they're not receiving it, and that it's really going to put you right to the heart of a decision maker in any business. So LinkedIn, I think, is a really great space to invest in.
Okay, that's awesome. All right. Is there anything else you want to share? Because you're right, it's a whole nother job. Is there a certain amount of time they should put towards it? Should the parents should they hire somebody?
And again, it's like, it's tough. It's a really fine line, right? And then we've all been there where we know something, and as bad as we want to just give that knowledge to someone else, it's like, yo, I have a niece, and we're teaching her, me and my girl, we were teaching her how to ride a bike. We were teaching her how to ride a bike. And no matter how much I just want her to understand, she's got to fall over to the side on that bicycle herself. There's just like no stopping it. It has to happen. It has to happen.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I think the best thing to do is like start with a plan. Make a plan for yourself. the best thing I could tell you is like, I've spent, there are places to be educated and there are places to decide to be the educator. And I think when it comes time to make a plan for yourself, you have to be the one to make it, because you know the demands of your life like no one else will know. You know that you have a wife, that you have a child. You know that you need to spend this many hours in the pool. You know that cooking takes this much time, or that you got to look after grandma for these hours. It's like, you got to make a plan that works for you, and just know, right? Again, that plan is going to fail for sure. 100%. Like,
it is what it is. Just keep going.
You just need a plan to get started, and then you adapt and you adapt and you adapt. And yeah, again, like, my dad has always told me, like, dude, if it was easy, everybody would do it. So, like, don't be worried about it being easy or hard. Just like, are you going to do it or not? That's all that matters.
Yeah. Okay, good. Thank you. It is 5:58. So now I want to circle back and talk about the athletes and what's happening to them behind the scenes. So I think it helps to understand the college experience too. When you start talking about professional athletes, I don't know about grade school, but I'll tell you about college. So what I learned from Dr. Baldwin is that universities are very predatory towards the Black-led sports, basketball, football, because those are the ones that make the most money, right? So not only are they predatory, but they're also ungiving. Universities don't pay taxes. So now they're using the Black talent, and a lot of universities were too big to leave during that white flight movement after Reconstruction. So when most non-Black folks started running out to the suburbs, they couldn't run. So they had to stay there. So they started developing all these deals with the government to, like, okay, now you got to make it worth our while. So now they're in usually neighborhoods that are Black and Latino, not paying any taxes, Jamal. 0 taxes. And also they don't pay well. So that's the university. Like, that's who we're talking about first and foremost. So now when you go to the athlete world, when these athletes were trying to get compensated, they were trying to get compensated from the proceeds that universities actually make from the sport, right? In the month of March this year, the NCAA made $1 billion. Over $1 billion during the month of March, 1 month, right? So athletes were just trying to get a little piece of that, because that's not going to the athletes, right? It's not going to the teachers. It's not going to taxes. It's not going to communities. It's not going to towards anybody's student loan. So that's that. I just want you to paint the picture of where we're starting. Now, fast forward, now these kids become professional athletes, but while they're in college, financial professionals, only a small group. There's a small group of financial professionals that target athletes. I am not one of them, and I'll tell you why. So they target athletes and they start making their presence known in high school. So they start doing whatever they're doing in high school, whether it's, little cute gifts, little this, talking to the mama, whatever it is, they do it in high school. So then by the time these kids are going to college, there's a relationship built, because they're just trying to hedge their bets. They don't know where anybody's going to go, but they've been around enough because they specialize. That's their niche. So in college, now we have the NIL. Did you know that it's literally illegal for universities to educate kids about NIL, like educate them about any of the NCAA did that. The sports.
I did not know that.
Yeah, the sports groups did that. I found that out from Coach Mosley, one of the other speakers who coaches a basketball team and was on that show Last Chance U. So they can't even teach these kids about what to expect. 50% is too much. So they're literally trying to make sure that these people are just as ignorant as they come. And colleges don't finance, even though finance should be taught for every major, personal finance, it is not. It's not taught to every major. So university, college kids, athletes, they might not necessarily take a finance class. It might not be easy. It might not be a guaranteed pass. It might not be whatever they need, even though they do need to do it. So the school isn't trying to help them get more educated. They're not necessarily going into the majors where they can learn this stuff. So now they get drafted and go into the professionals. So now we have these predatory financial professionals. In order to even get registered with the, NFL, I will have to pay X, Y, and Z dollars a year. As the advisor, I would have to pay that. So, and it's a lot of money. I don't even want to tell you how much, because when I looked into it, it was a minute ago, but it was $10,000 a lot of years ago. A lot of
10,000 a year, or just like 10,000 lifetime?
I think it was 10,000 a year, but still, as a agent,
to get registered, to be on the list.
But that's a lot of money
That's
to a financial professional. And
That's
why does paying $10,000 make it? Money doesn't make me have more integrity.
Yeah, that doesn't certify you. That doesn't make you anything.
It doesn't. It just makes me have money. So guess who the people who had that money were? They weren't me, right? So it's this very incestuous circle of people, almost like sucking from these boys, sucking, and keeping them so disconnected from people as an industry. They're just disconnected. So when it's all said and done, these groups are taking their money. They're not educating the kids. So when the kids say something like, well, I just want to make sure I don't lose no money, instead of educating them about the risk reward conversation, like, well, this is what's going to happen, instead of educating their families, who can also end up being a financial hindrance, instead of just sitting down and just educating folks, they're doing these weird decisions, and then the kid ends up being bankrupt, but none of the financial advisors are. And because of systemic racism, who you gonna tell? Who you gonna tell? America's been taking things from Black folks since day one. They're not gonna not do it now. Why would they not do it now? Right? So athletes are just, it's a very closed system where they're it's set up from like high school, and it's just set up through college, and college perpetuates it with their greed and their own kind of energy towards Black folks who aren't even athletes. So I'm saying all that to say, it's, when I started this series, I didn't know anything about NIL, and now I'm like, colleges. Now I'm like, yeah. You could set families up. You can change the whole conversation, and you're choosing not to.
Yeah.
Where's the money going?
I mean, no, I'm with it. It's definitely not. It's not fair it's not fair this way or that way. It's like, but they're a business. They're in business to make money.
And we got to change it. And we got to change it through these conversations.
We got to change it.
We cannot keep being the commodity. We can't keep being the cash. We cannot keep being the.
I'm curious, Saria. I don't have a strong position on this either way, but I'm curious. What is your sentiment, or even what was this gentleman who was kind of educating you and the rest of the audience on this? What was his sentiment on, at least on the collegiate level, even though these athletes aren't being paid, they have $100,000 every year in tuition covered, they have housing covered, they have food covered, they have all these, very real assets that probably, as a professional amateur athlete, people would jump to have these, amenities covered. What was the positional compensation regarding that?
He thought the scholarships were great, that they get to make money from scholarships. And I thought that there should still be sharing in the revenue.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, I just think there should be, but in another world, it might be, right? Our society is capitalistic, and again, until proven otherwise, we're still the thing that's traded.
Amen.
So.
Yeah. Well, not amen to that, but dear Lord.
I know, right?
100%.
It is what it, but we're changing it. We're going to change it. We got to do it. And you're helping. And can you share your big announcement? And then I will.
For sure. I'll share it. Okay, everyone listening. I was nominated for an ESPY award, the Muhammad Ali Humanitarian Award, for this year's ESPYs. So, and that's all from our work through the Swim Uphill Foundation. We work to teach a million people around the world how to swim every year. There is definitely a strong focus on low income. There is definitely a strong focus on people that look like me, people that look like Sharia, African-American Black youth in this city of Los Angeles, but across the whole nation. And quite frankly, even outside of our lovely country, across the African diaspora. So, make sure you watch the SP on July the 12th. You can't vote, but hey, if I win, you know who to clap for.
All right, awesome. Thank you so much. Goodbye, everybody. We will resume in the fall, and I'll keep you posted. Follow my social media, and I'll make sure to tag Mr. Hill and the social media so you can follow him too. And thank you again so much. I appreciate you. Have a good one.